You're scrolling through your phone, complaining about your Wi-Fi being slow, when suddenly you're face to face with Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen. This guy just survived 47 days in the Alaskan wilderness with nothing but a broken radio and a half-empty MRI. But here's the crazy part. He didn't just survive. He thrived. While we're out here ordering DoorDash because we're too lazy to cook, Marcus was building an entire survival empire in sub-zero temperatures. And what he discovered will completely shatter everything you think you know about modern survival. See, most people think surviving in the Arctic means huddling in a corner, rationing your last granola bar, and praying for rescue. But Marcus, he turned that frozen wasteland into his personal kingdom. It all started when his helicopter went down during a routine training mission in northern Alaska. The pilot didn't make it. The radio was fried, and Marcus, he had a choice: become another statistic or become a legend. The first thing that saved his life wasn't what you'd expect. While everyone thinks you need high-tech gear to survive, Marcus discovered something incredible. The answer was literally under his feet. Snow, but not just any snow. Marcus learned to read snow like a book. Fresh powder meant recent weather changes. Crusty layers revealed wind patterns. And that weird blue-tinted snow, that's your goldmine. It's the densest, purest water source you can find. But here's where it gets insane. While we're complaining about our heating bills, Marcus figured out how to create a heating system using nothing but body heat and physics. He dug what he called the thermal fortress, a snow cave system that maintained 40-degree temperatures when it was -30 outside. The secret multi-chamber design. Each chamber served a purpose. A sleeping chamber elevated above the entrance to trap warm air. Storage chamber for food preservation. And get this, a workshop chamber where he crafted tools from aircraft debris. Speaking of food, forget everything you know about Arctic survival rations. Marcus discovered something that blew his mind. The crashed helicopter had inadvertently landed near what the locals called the pantry, a frozen ecosystem teeming with edible resources. He learned to fish through ice using improvised spears made from aircraft aluminum. But the real game changer: ice traps. Marcus created these ingenious contraptions that used the natural freezing cycle to catch fish while he slept. He'd wake up to fresh protein every morning, and when the fish weren't biting, Marcus went hunting. Not with guns. He had none. With his bare hands and pure strategy, Arctic rabbits leave specific tracks in snow. Marcus learned to read these tracks like GPS coordinates. He'd follow them to their burrows, then use a technique called the avalanche method, creating small, controlled snowslides to flush them out. But the most incredible part: Marcus didn't just survive, he built an entire production system. While we're here buying pre-made everything, Marcus became a one-man manufacturing plant. He processed rabbit fur into insulation using techniques that would make ancient craftsmen jealous. He created thread from sinew. He even figured out how to make needles from fish bones. His clothes, completely custom-designed thermalware that outperformed anything you can buy at Ray. Layer system that trapped air, wicked moisture, and could be adjusted for any temperature. But here's what really separated Marcus from everyone else. He didn't just react to the cold. He dominated it. Most people in survival situations go into panic mode. Marcus, he went into builder mode. He created a daily schedule that would make Navy SEALs jealous. 600 hours. Ice fishing check in equipment. Maintenance 0800 hours. Foraging and trap inspection 1000 hours. Shelter improvement and tool crafting 1200 hours. Physical training to maintain body heat 1400 hours. Signal fire preparation and rescue planning 1600 hours. Food processing and preservation 1800 hours. Equipment repair and innovation 2000 hours. Strategic planning and rest every single day for 47 days. But the psychological game, that's where Marcus really showed his genius. While most people would be going crazy from isolation, Marcus created his own entertainment system. He built a chess set from ice and debris. He created a workout routine using aircraft parts as weights. He even started a journal carved into metal sheets documenting every technique, every discovery, every breakthrough. This wasn't just survival. This was scientific advancement in real-time. Marcus discovered that certain types of ice could be shaped into lenses that concentrate sunlight for starting fires. He figured out how to create insulation from aircraft, insulation that was 300% more effective than the original design. He even invented a water purification system using layers of clothing and natural materials. And then there was the rescue beacon situation that changed everything. On day 31, Marcus found remnants of the helicopter's emergency beacon. Dead battery, cracked casing, completely useless, or so anyone else would think. Marcus spent 6 days reverse engineering that beacon. He used copper wire from the aircraft, created a battery from scrap metal and organic acids, and built a signal amplifier from reflective materials. The result: a rescue beacon that could be detected from 50 miles away instead of the standard 15. But here's the kicker. When the rescue team finally found him, they couldn't believe what they discovered. Marcus hadn't just survived. He'd created a winter survival compound that was more advanced than most military training facilities. He had multiple shelter systems, food preservation methods, and tool manufacturing capabilities that impressed hardened survival experts. The rescue team leader said Marcus looked healthier than when he'd started the mission. He'd actually gained muscle mass. In the Arctic for 47 days, Marcus had cracked the code that modern society has completely forgotten. We've become so dependent on technology, on convenience, on having everything handed to us, that we've lost the most important skill humans have ever possessed: the ability to adapt and thrive in any environment. While we're here complaining about our problems, Marcus proved that every obstacle is just raw material for a solution. Every limitation is just a design challenge. Every setback is just information for your next breakthrough. The crazy part: Marcus says anyone can develop these skills. It's not about being superhuman, it's about shifting your mindset from consumer to creator, from victim to victor, from dependent to dominant. Think about it. We live in the most comfortable time in human history, yet we're more anxious, more dependent, and more helpless than ever. We've traded our natural human capabilities for artificial conveniences. But Marcus, he showed us what's possible when you stop making excuses and start making solutions. This 47-day Arctic survival story isn't just about staying alive. It's about discovering that humans are capable of incredible things when we stop limiting ourselves and start unleashing our potential. The real question is, what would you do if you couldn't rely on anyone else? What would you create if you had to build everything from scratch? What would you become if you had to earn your survival every single day? Marcus found out, and it changed everything. But the story gets even more insane. When Marcus finally made contact with the outside world, he didn't just call for rescue. He started documenting everything. Every technique, every innovation, every breakthrough he'd made in those 47 days. The military brass couldn't believe what they were hearing. Here was a guy who'd essentially rewritten the survival manual in real time, under the most extreme conditions imaginable. They sent in a full documentation team. Engineers, survival experts, psychologists, everyone wanted to understand how Marcus had not just survived, but revolutionized Arctic survival techniques. What they found was mind-blowing. Marcus had created what experts now call the Chen method, a complete system for turning any hostile environment into a thriving base of operations. The military has since incorporated 23 of his innovations into their official survival training. But here's what really gets me. When they asked Marcus what his secret was, his answer was simple: I stopped thinking like a victim and started thinking like a CEO. Think about it. CEOs don't make excuses when things go wrong. They adapt, they innovate, they find opportunities where others see problems. Marcus treated the Arctic like a startup. The crashed helicopter wasn't a disaster, it was his initial capital. The harsh environment wasn't his enemy, it was his market. His survival wasn't about luck, it was about strategy. Every morning, Marcus held board meetings with himself. What resources do I have? What problems need solving? What opportunities can I create? What innovations can I implement? He didn't just react to challenges, he anticipated them. He planned for them. He turned them into advantages. When food ran low, Marcus didn't ration and hope. He diversified his food sources: ice fishing, trap hunting, foraging, food preservation. He created multiple revenue streams for survival. When his shelter needed improvement, Marcus didn't just patch problems. He engineered solutions: multi-chamber design, thermal regulation, structural reinforcement. He built with scalability in mind. When loneliness threatened his sanity, Marcus didn't just endure it. He channeled it into productivity, documentation, skill development, physical training. He turned isolation into education. The most incredible part: Marcus says the hardest thing about returning to civilization wasn't readjusting to comfort. It was watching people complain about problems that had obvious solutions. I spent 47 days proving that humans can overcome anything, Marcus told me. Then I came back to a world where people give up before they even try. We've become so comfortable with mediocrity that we've forgotten what we're capable of. We've become so dependent on systems that we've lost the ability to create systems. But Marcus, he proved that every single human being has the potential to be extraordinary when they stop accepting limitations and start creating solutions. His story isn't just about Arctic survival, it's about life survival. It's about thriving in any environment, overcoming any obstacle, and turning every setback into a comeback. The question isn't whether you'll face challenges in life. The question is, will you face them like Marcus Chen, or will you face them like everyone else? Will you innovate, or will you complain? Will you adapt, or will you give up? Will you create solutions, or will you create excuses? Marcus spent 47 days, proving that the choice is always yours. And honestly, that's the most terrifying and inspiring thing about his story. Because if Marcus can build an empire in the Arctic with nothing but debris and determination, what's your excuse for not building something incredible with all the resources you have right now? But wait, there's more to Marcus's story that'll blow your mind. On day 38, something happened that changed everything. Marcus heard voices. No, he wasn't going crazy. He was hearing actual human voices carried on the wind. A search and rescue team was out there, but they were searching in completely the wrong area. Here's where most people would start screaming, waving their arms, burning everything they had to create smoke signals. Desperate, panicked, hoping to get lucky. Not Marcus. Marcus calculated. The voices were coming from the southeast, approximately 3 miles away based on sound clarity and wind direction. They were moving in a grid pattern, which meant they'd be back in that area within 72 hours. Instead of wasting his resources on a desperate gamble, Marcus executed what he called Operation Lighthouse. He spent the next 2 days creating the most elaborate rescue signal system ever conceived by a single person. Using reflective materials from the helicopter, he built a series of solar reflectors that could be seen from 10 miles away. He created smoke signals using a controlled burn system that produced maximum visibility with minimum fuel. But the genius part, Marcus didn't just create signals, he created a communication system. Using rocks and debris, he spelled out messages that could be read from aircraft, not just help like everyone else would do. Marcus wrote detailed coordinates, injury status, resource availability, and weather conditions. He turned his rescue site into a complete briefing document. When the search team finally spotted his signals, they couldn't believe what they found. The rescue coordinator later said it was like discovering a military installation in the middle of nowhere. Marcus had created landing zones marked with precision. He'd prepared medical information. He'd even calculated fuel requirements for the rescue helicopter and prepared emergency supplies in case of complications. The rescue wasn't just successful, it was a masterclass in logistics and planning. But here's what really blows my mind about Marcus's story. When they debriefed him, the military discovered something incredible. Marcus had actually improved during his time in the Arctic. His physical fitness scores were higher than before the crash. His mental acuity tests showed enhanced problem-solving abilities. His psychological evaluation revealed increased confidence and stress management skills. The military brass was shocked. Here was a guy who'd just survived the most extreme survival scenario imaginable, and he came back stronger than when he left. They wanted to understand how, so they brought in the best survival experts, psychologists and military strategists, to study Marcus's methods. What they discovered revolutionized military training. Marcus had unconsciously developed what experts now call adversarial growth methodology. Instead of just surviving adversity, he'd learned to use adversity as a tool for development. Every challenge became a skill-building opportunity. Every setback became a strength-building exercise. Every limitation became a creativity constraint. The cold wasn't just something to endure, it was training for mental toughness. The isolation wasn't just loneliness, it was training for self-reliance. The resource scarcity wasn't just hardship, it was training for innovation. Marcus had turned 47 days of survival into 47 days of intensive personal development. The military now uses Marcus's techniques in their elite training programs. Special forces units study his methods. Survival schools teach his innovations. Leadership programs analyze his mindset. But here's the crazy part. Marcus says none of this was conscious. He wasn't trying to become a survival expert or revolutionize military training. He was just trying to not die. I didn't set out to change anything, Marcus told me. I just refused to accept that my situation was hopeless. That's the real secret. Not some complex strategy or advanced training. Just a simple refusal to accept defeat. Don't think about that. Marcus didn't have special equipment. He didn't have advanced survival training. He didn't have years of preparation. He just had a mindset that said, I'm going to figure this out, no matter what. And that mindset changed everything. While we're here making excuses about why we can't lose weight, can't start a business, can't learn new skills, can't change our lives, Marcus proved that the only thing standing between you and extraordinary results is your willingness to refuse ordinary excuses. The Arctic didn't make Marcus strong. Marcus made himself strong by refusing to let the Arctic break him. The isolation didn't make Marcus innovative. Marcus made himself innovative by refusing to let isolation defeat him. The extreme conditions didn't make Marcus successful. Marcus made himself successful by refusing to let extreme conditions define his limits. Here's what really gets me about Marcus's story. When I asked him what he'd tell someone facing their own Arctic survival situation, maybe a business failure, a relationship breakdown, a health crisis, a financial disaster, his answer was simple. Stop focusing on what you can't control and start obsessing over what you can control. Marcus couldn't control the weather, but he could control his shelter. Marcus couldn't control the crash, but he could control his response. Marcus couldn't control the isolation, but he could control his mindset. Marcus couldn't control the rescue timeline, but he could control his preparation. Every single day Marcus made a choice. He could focus on his problems or focus on his solutions. He could think about what was wrong or think about what was possible. And that choice, made consistently for 47 days, turned him from a crash victim into a survival legend. The most incredible part, Marcus says the skills he learned in the Arctic, who have made him unstoppable in civilian life. Once you've built a thriving operation in sub-zero temperatures with nothing but debris and determination, Marcus laughed. Everything else seems pretty manageable. Marcus now runs a successful consulting company. He's written a best-selling book. He's spoken at Fortune 500 companies. He's trained Navy SEALs, all because he refused to accept that 47 days in the Arctic had to be the worst thing that ever happened to him. Instead, he decided it would be the best thing that ever happened to him. That's the power of the Marcus Chen mindset. It doesn't just help you survive, it helps you thrive. And the most amazing thing, you don't need to crash in the Arctic to develop it. You just need to start treating your current challenges like Marcus treated his. Not as problems to endure, but as projects to dominate. Not as limitations to accept, but as opportunities to innovate. Not as reasons to give up, but as reasons to level up. The real survival story isn't about lasting 47 days in Alaska. It's about lasting 47 years in modern society without losing your ability to think, create, and overcome like Marcus Chen. If you want to discover more incredible stories about people who refused to accept limitations and instead chose to rewrite the rules of what's possible, smash that subscribe button. We've got dozens of mind-blowing stories about ordinary people who accomplished extraordinary things when they stopped playing it safe and started playing to win.